the four subjects that come up a lot in Docusign are how to do an online seller's disclosure, how to do a lease application, form templates, how to create form templates in Docusign. It's a little different now. And then how to do in-person signing. So where you actually bring your laptop and you hand it over and they can sign. So let's go ahead and get started. I actually have created already this room inside of Docusign that I am going to use for this practice here. Remember, you do have to always create a room from within command first, but I've already created this one. First thing we're going to talk about today is how to do a seller's disclosure. So right here in the Docusign rooms, I'm in the Documents tab. I'm going to go over to the Docusign Forms library and pull a seller's disclosure. So I went to the sales listing forms, and in here should be a seller's disclosure. There it is right there. I'm going to add it on, and it has dropped into the room right there. Next thing I have to do is there's certain fields inside of the seller's disclosure that need to be filled out before I send this off to the seller. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the form just by clicking it on and opening up the seller's disclosure. Because I already have the property address in the details tab, it already has pre-filled the concerning property right here. But if you had not put that in the details tab, you can then still fill that out and put in the property address. As for anything else on the seller's disclosure, except for the concerning property address, there is nothing that you can fill out in this document. All of this is locked because it must be filled out by the seller. Also, the printed name does need to be filled out. And in this one, me and Lori are going to be buying the property together. Even though I'm going to be the agent, me and Lori are going to be I'm selling the property together. So we have our information there. And just for sake purposes, the buyers are the same person, but don't worry about that. So all I did was filled out the only fields that could be filled out in this seller's disclosure, which was the property address and the seller and the buyer printed name. Once I've done that, save and close. Now I need to send this seller's disclosure for completion. A good tip is when you're going to send the seller's disclosure, do not send it with any other document. It should be sent all by itself, because the other documents are probably only going to be needed to be signed. The seller disclosure needs to be filled out. So it's best to send it in a separate email with clear instructions to your seller about how to fill it out. The only issue about sending it online is that only one of them can fill out the form. The other person will only sign it. So maybe a good tip is to tell your seller, whoever's going to be seller one that's going to have access to it, you want to tell them, sit together, fill it out together, complete it. The other person will just sign it. That way, there's not going to be any confusion that the other person doesn't have access to it. There is a way to collaborate on the fields. However, I'm going to show you why that is a difficult thing to do. So now what I'm going to do is take the seller's disclosure and put it in an envelope. And I don't know if you ever guys know, this is another little quick tip. If you right click on the form, it's going to give you everything that would normally appear on the toolbar up here on top. So I'm going to go ahead and put this into an envelope. Immediately, I'm going to name the envelope seller's disclosure. Reason doing is that I want to make sure that I keep this envelope separate from all the other ones. So I'm naming it the seller's disclosure, so it's going to be kept separate. The seller's disclosure is already in the envelope. right there. I'm not adding any other forms in there. And now I need to add the recipients. And I'm always going to choose pre-tag roles. And just a recommendation, if you ever get the option of using pre-tag roles, use it. Don't use room participants or email address. Those should only be used if you are using a PDF and it's not a Docusign form. So I'm going to go ahead and pick pre-tag roles right there. And when I know this sometimes confuses us that it says buyer 1 and buyer 2, but we're only representing the seller. Do not worry. It's just because in the Docusign form, when it was built, it has room for a buyer 1 and a buyer 2 to sign, but it's not for them to fill out. When this comes up, the only thing that you are concerned with is the people that are going to fill this out and are going to sign it. So I am concerned with seller 1 and seller 2. I need to now decide who is going to be the one that's going to fill out the seller's disclosure. If it's going to be me or is it going to be Lori? And remember, in this situation, me and Lori are selling the property together. So if I want Lori to fill out the form, I would choose her as seller 1. If I'm going to fill out the form, I'm going to be seller 1. For argument's sake, I'm going to do it as myself as being the seller 1. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go ahead and choose. Actually, I'm going to do it under my other email here. And for seller 2, I'm going to go ahead and pick Lori right there. And I'm going to go ahead and hit add select. You'll see that both will come up as recipients here, seller 1, seller 2. But just know, again, seller 1 is the only person that's going to fill out the form. Now I can write a email subject, please complete seller's disclosure. And I can write a little message here, giving instructions again that seller 1 is the, Ed's going to be the only one that's going to fill it out. Lori's just going to have the ability to sign it. Just make sure to sit down together and complete this. I'm going to go to next up here on top. And once this opens up, you're going to see that seller 1 is going to get access to the entire form. Because it's all lit up, this means that seller 1, being me, is going to be the one that's going to have access to completing the entire form. If I switch this to Lori, there's no blue. None of them are blue except for the initials and the signing at the very end. So once seller 1 receives it, they're going to see this form just like this. And I'm going to go ahead and send it to myself. So you're going to see exactly how they see the form. Before I get there, I did want to tell you about the collaboration. You can make these a collaborative fields. It's just going to take you a long time to do it because you're going to have to actually click one by one. Like for example, here, this text field, go over to your toolbar and go down to collaboration, and recipients can collaborate. But you would have to do that for every single field inside of the form. Better just to say seller 1 is going to fill it out, sit together, fill it out, and seller 2 is just going to sign it. So I'm going to remove that collaboration. So I'm going to go ahead and hit send up here on top. And it's going to go out to seller 1 and seller 2. And you'll see it says needs my signatures, but that's because I own this room. If you go, I'm going to go over to my emails, and there is the email just like your sellers would have received. Please complete seller's disclosure and then review the document. So this is as though seller 1 has just received this email and they're going to review this document. As it opens, continue, and then start. So it's going to start taking them through the seller's disclosure. A tip instruction is tell the seller, just go through it from top to bottom. Don't be going all through it. Just start going from top to bottom. And if you have a question, call me, or I'll be right available to answer your, any questions that you have. So is the seller occupying? Let's say yes. Has the seller ever occupied the property? They could answer this. It's an optional right there. Anything that is red also, that is a required field, so that they know that it's required. So cable TV wiring, yes. Carbon monoxide, no. Ceiling fans, yes. Cooktop, no. They're just going to be going down the line of filling out the seller's disclosure, and you know how to instruct people how to fill out a seller's disclosure. So the same instructions that you would give them about filling out the seller's disclosure, you would do that. Once they have completed everything, they also will initial and sign. They have access to every single field in here. And you can see signing everything like that. So, and all the fields are available for them to complete the seller's disclosure online. It's probably a lot simpler than you thought it would be, right? It's actually fairly easy. So just the only thing is that you have to remember seller 1 is the only one that's going to fill it out. Seller 2 is just going to sign the form. As long as you can remember that, it's going to open up the form for seller 1 to complete that online. Any questions, guys? Anyone online have a question? Let me see the chat real quick. So the question is, how did you get the form to have the fields automatically come across the fillable cells without adding them? It's by using a Docusign form from the form library and then using predefined roles. Must use predefined roles. If you do not use predefined roles, those cells will not appear automatically. So that is that one there. So always remember, your trick for every form is predefined roles. If you don't use predefined roles, it will not have the fields inside of Docusign. Go through here.
All the years.
There we go. Any other questions about the seller's disclosure right now? Very good. I did my job on this one. So next one we're going to do is the lease application. Let me just go get rid of this one here. I'm going to go back to documents here. And now the scenario is that I have 2 applicants that want to apply for a lease. So there's tenant 1 and tenant 2, and I need to send the lease application to both of them. First off, I am going to go into the Docusign Forms library again, the plus add Docusign Forms. I'm going to go into the tenant lease forms, and I'm going to go to the lease application. Add selected. It drops in. Again, there are certain fields that I need to fill out before I send this to them. I'm going to go ahead and click on it. So all the fields that are open here, I need to fill these out right now. So property address, what is their move-in date? So you want to ask them what their move-in date. If they don't know what their move-in date, just leave it blank and discuss that later. What the monthly rent is, but let's say here, I'm just going to go ahead and put this in as 6/1. Let's say the monthly rent is $2,000. Security deposits, $2,000. And initial lease term is 12 months. Everything else is still locked except for the property address. You can see that. You do need to fill out the fees area. So how much are you going to charge them for the lease application? $40. Paid to me. or if you're using another service. Will not submit additional. And then everything else that I will fill out over in this area here. And you can see that's the only information that you need to fill out for the lease application as the listing agent. Save and close. Now I have two people that need to apply for the lease. They're applying together. Remember, everyone over the age of 18 has to apply in a separate application. I need to get this done, use two different envelopes, one for each tenant. I cannot do it in the same envelope. So the first one, I right click, create envelope. And again, I'm just pretending it's Lori and me that are going to be leasing this property we're applying. So I'm going to say application Eddie. I'm putting it as their name, the person that's applying. Recipient, pre-tag roles. For tenant one, I'm going to go down and I'm going to pick, because in the details, I already put their details in buyer one and buyer two, even though if they're not really a buyer one, buyer two, but I just put it as tenant one, tenant two, thinking that way. I'm going to put myself as the first one, add selected. I would fill out an email subject or message as needed. Hit next. And you can see again, it's all open for them to complete the application. One little tip here, I like to give tips here. A lot of people do not like to give out their social security number. However, it is required for us because we want to do a background check. And if they don't give it to us. So click it. Required field. Make it required. And any other ones like email, phone number, you can make those, any of those ones required so that you don't have to waste time with someone that's not really interested. I get this often, and I don't know if you guys have experienced this. People that are not really interested in the property, but just want to put their foot through the door to kind of hold it, will fill out an application and leave certain fields blank, like social security, their email, phone numbers, things like that, so that they they're still in the door, but they're not really interested. They're probably applying to many different properties. So you can make certain fields required. And that would just be by clicking, again, like, let's say the home phone number, click that one, and then go up here and hit required field. But once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and hit send it out. And then I need to do the one for Lori. So I'm going to go back in documents, lease application, the same one again, right click, create envelope. Application. Lori. Add recipients, do pre-tag roles again. Always remember pre-tag roles. Tenant one, then I'm going to choose it as Lori. Add selected. I would fill out again the email subject and message as needed. Next. Now Lori has access to all those fields. This is going to be her application. And then I will, if there's any, also another tip, if you want to fill out anything on this for them, which you shouldn't, but there's certain things that you can, like if the real estate agent or something like that, you can do that for them. The only fields that you really can't touch are going to be anything that's going to be pertaining to their previous work history. But this section right here about referred by, if you needed to fill that out, you could do that in this area here. and then fill it out right there for them. Up to you. But I'm going to go ahead and hit send here, send that out. And now Lori has her application to fill out. When she gets done with it, I will get it back and they will drop into the documents tab as two different applications, one for me, one for Lori. Any questions about the application?
So we want to send this one to them, to our tenants, okay? And we don't know about the property, let's suppose right now. They are looking for the property like after 15 days or 1 month, but we want to fill up their application. So we have the application is here, but we don't have to, means me or maybe I'm not available or the property. So how we can.
So in that situation, you just wouldn't fill out the first part where I put in the property address and that you would leave that blank. The only thing that I will tell you is it's an incomplete application that they are signing and you are modifying it. So it would be proper if once you put the property address, they have to initial those changes to the application.
Or it is possible they can fill out this one and we have the print out and whenever we have any property and then we can just fill out by using.
You can do that, but the proper way would be for them to initial the changes to because they've signed an incomplete application and it would be proper for them to initial that changes that you've made to it. Because in essence, they've filled out an application without the property. You put in the property information. It's as if you are acting on their behalf and you are putting information that they haven't signed. So you understand what I'm saying? You're kind of acting on their behalf, even though everything does have to be in writing and they should initial those changes on the application.
We submit an application for one property
Mhm.
and we wait for 10 days for their approval. And then at the end they are denied or whatsoever reason, and then we have to go to another property.
Mhm.
They have to again fill all this.
So it's proper for them to fill out an application for every property that they are going to apply to. What I will tell you is if you do have them pre-fill an application out and sign it, it's just proper to them when you fill out the property and the amount that they just have to initial those changes.
I have a question on this, like if this is the form, for application form, is it done from our office or is it done from each of the person who are getting, each of the owners are different?
The landlord has the discretion to choose which application they would like to use. Some landlords have a property management company and they do online applications, so they don't require these. But some landlords, they don't use a property management. They're using just a realtor to be their listing agent. And in those situations, most time the realtor will just use the TAR form.
So each application would be different then?
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, if suppose they want to change, do they have to add extra info? And then, and then done for the changes or if they can do the changes, if they want something else?
If they want anything extra,
Yes.
that is what this,
Tenants, not
the tenant, yes. So this field right here is where the tenant would ask for anything extra. Like, do they want the property professionally cleaned before they move in? Or do they want a certain repair done? That's what that field right there, where the landlord expresses no implied warranties of the property. Applicant requests landlord consider the following repairs for treatment should applicant and landlord enter into a lease. So you want to use that little, yes, any changes. I would always discuss this with the listing agent first and get a verbal before I were to put that into an application. Yes, because I wouldn't want to waste my tenant's time filling out an application if the landlord is not going to approve that. But that's what that area right there is for. And that would be an area that you could fill out for your tenant, put in the wording and then just make it so that, because you already had the agreement with your tenant of what they want there.
And how we can do some correction, like suppose they fill up all the form and everything, but there is one point where there is a mistake and.
So whenever you do, and this is across any form that you ever do, if you make a mistake, there's two ways of doing it. First one is to just archive the one that was signed and send it again for signatures, a new one. The other way is to send a PDF through, and there are marking tools inside of where you can do a cross out and put an initial box. So that's the two ways of doing it. If you do send the signed one through, all the form is locked up. It's a complete PDF. It doesn't have movable where you can type things in. That's where you do have to pull in text boxes, do cross outs and put initials. And any change that you do make has to be initialed.
Have to do a PDF editor or something for that.
No, you can do it through here. Let me see if I can, if there's a PDF on this computer real quick. If there is one, then we're lucky. If not. Okay. I don't know what these documents are. I'm just going to say that this is a PDF right here that, let's say it's a log PDF that we are pulling in. I then put it into an envelope. Let's just say corrections to form. In this situation, when I go to add recipients, I do not have pre-tagged roles. The reason I don't is because it's not a Docusign form. It's a PDF. Or if it is a signed document, even though it was a form at one time, but it was signed and now became a signed form, it has now become a PDF and it cannot be changed. So I'm now going to use room participants. And I'm going to pick the people that are going, that this concerns to. So if it was just me, myself as the buyer, add selected. I would do whatever email subject or message, hit next. As it comes up, it's going to be just a locked PDF. It's not going to have anything that can be filled out. Let's say I need to cross something out. For example, I could go in here to the line. So I just went to the pre-fill tools. I went to line. Did a cross out. Then maybe I need to add a text box. Fill in whatever I need to fill in there. And then I would go back up to the standard fields and grab an initial. And that would be how to make a correction on a PDF that has already been signed. Any questions on that? Let me check our chat room. So does this work the same if you were to use a zip forms application? And yes, when you are doing sending out for signing, you want to do the same practice of putting the zip forms application into one envelope, send it out to the one applicant, and then do another envelope for the second applicant for that one. So if you're using zip forms, it's the same process.
It's not billable in zip forms though, correct?
No, that's why I would actually say it might be better just to use it from the Docusign Forms library. As you saw, it's actually really easy just to pull it and you're good to go.
So going back to the application, and kind of what we were talking about, if you have them fill out the application, don't put an address. Can you take off the signature just to have all of the other information? Maybe leave off this, it's a social security number. That way you can pop in the address, pop in the social, they can fill out the social and they can sign it.
Yes.
You can do that.
Yes, let me show you how you can do that. I'm going to get out of this one here. Start the changes. So I'm just gonna go into this one that's waiting for Lori. I'm gonna go into correct. Pull it back. Then go into, oh, I forgot, did one mistake. Sorry. Sent it out again to Lori, so let me go back in here. Correct. I'm gonna go to edit signing fields. So what I would do on this, I would have not filled that out in the first place, so I would have left that blank. But then I could have gone down and where the signature is, click it, hit delete. And then the same thing for the Social Security. I could get rid of that real quickly. It's gone. And then the last one at the very end, get rid of that one too. So in this one scenario, I'm going to send Lori a application to fill out without signing it yet. So in that situation, then when I fill in the property, I would just have her sign it at that time too. So instead of having to initial it, I could just have her sign because I've taken the signatures off of the application. So now it's all ready. The application's ready to go. The only thing is that once I am ready to complete it, I would have to send it to her again, just really quickly with the property information and add in signature boxes into the PDF. And then she would sign it.
At that time, this will be in PDF form.
It will be a PDF. So I would have,
like texting.
yes. So I would have to add the text boxes and add the signature boxes.
So using this way is first sending them, they fill up the form and come back, and then you do the rest, and then I do the rest, and then send them back again to just sign it.
Yes. So it would be, yeah, they're just going to do a application without any signatures or the property information. And then when you have the property, you put it back into Docusign. You put in text boxes, fill in certain things and put signature boxes and then send it for them to sign real quickly. If that's going to save them time from, if they're going to be applying to many different places. Okay. Any other questions? Because we are at our halfway point and I have two more subjects to go over today. So I want to go over those for you guys. Let me go ahead and get back into my room here. So the next thing we're going to talk about is form templates. This is actually something new that has been created inside of Docusign. I don't know if a long time you guys, some that have been using Docusign for a little bit, you could create templates, but it was a little bit of a tedious task where you had to pull in a PDF and put in all the text boxes, add all the signature boxes, and then save it as a template. Now it is actually a lot easier. Scenarios. And I'm going to actually do the easiest of scenarios is the IABS. I'm going to show you that really quickly today. Probably a better scenarios are your buyer agreement, your listing agreement, and maybe your 1 to 4 that you could have with all your information already that you're going to be using anytime that you send one of those. So I am actually going to go into my docs up here on top. I went to my docs and I'm going to go here to form templates. And I've actually already created one. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to show you what I did for this one. This is for my buyer tenant representation. I'm just going to go into edit to show you what I did. So I just pulled a form. I'm going to show you that how to pull a form in just a little bit, but I just pulled a form and all I did was fill out the information that's going to be always used in my buyer tenant representation. I'm going to leave off whoever I'm representing because that's always going to be filled in a different time. So it has all my information. I usually know that I'm not going to be doing a relocation company, intermediary status. So I'm really just doing what will just be standard for most representation agreements. Again, construction, probably not. Colin. and then my information there. You can see all I did was fill out what would be a standard representation agreement. What I've left off is any potential new client that I would have in the future. Hit save and close. Now, if I were to go to a room, and I'm going to go back to a room, and I'm going to go back to the classroom that I've been using today, go to documents, and if I were to pull that buyer representation agreement, add Docusign forms, buyer forms, right here is the representation agreement. When I do that, when I check that right there, see what happened right there? There's a little drop-down box. Now, if I hit the drop-down box, it has my template right there. And I can select my template and hit add selected. Now, when it pulls it in right here and I open it up, it already has everything that I put in details merged in and all the template information that I had in my template already in there. This example right here, you can see the relocation, intermarriage, everything is already inputted. So it merged the two together, the template and my details. And now I save time of filling out this form because it's what I normally do. I still have the ability to go through it. Like, let's say in all of this, I don't tell you ever to change your commissions, but if the commission were to change here, I could still change it. Even though my template has it for 3, I could change it still here, but I still have the right to edit it as needed. But it has merged both what is always going to be standard and what's the new client together because I put the client in the details already. So now I'm going to show you, I'm going to save and close this one because I'm going to show you how to start from the beginning doing an IABS. So I'm going to go back to my documents, form templates. And now I'm going to create a form template right here. I'm going to use this blue button right here. It's going to look very similar to when we pull documents here. So it's going to say library. I'm going to go ahead and keep the TAR library. And I'm going to look for the IABS. Here it is. So there is one for buying and for listing. So you need to do the 2 of those because there's one for buying and for listing here. So the buyer one, let's use this one. It's going to pull in the blank one. So I'm going to go in and fill it out as needed. Remember all these things here. Although I should probably know it all by heart.
And this is same like zip forms and templates, right?
Yes, just like zip form templates. The only thing is it's not going to be group of forms. It's always going to be individual forms. Because, in zip forms, you can do group of forms together. This is going to be individual forms.
There is no any like groups like buyer every form inside. There is no anything.
No, it's going to be individual forms.
You're adding every form into the, okay.
Yeah. That is one thing that I will tell you is you can't group documents together.
Okay.
Let me just do a little bit of writing in here. Joys. Once you've done this once, you're not going to have to ever do it again. You're just going to get it all done.
Hey, is there a wish list place that we can people we want that as a feature?
Yes, there is on the answers.kw.com. You can put in the features that you want. And I would recommend that you guys go on there. First off, it's a great place for answers to anything. Answers.kw.com. It's a great website for answers. All you do is type in your question and all these videos and answers come up for you. So you just type it as a question, what you're looking for, and it will come up. And then also, if there's something that you're looking for, you can also put it on your wish list there. Give me 1 second. I'm not the fastest typer in the world. If I don't know why I've been addicted to Murder, She Wrote lately. If I ever lived in Cabot Cove, I would be dead because I couldn't type fast enough. So, although just to tell you, I want to go live there because it looks so beautiful, but all the newcomers ended up dying there, so I would probably be dead too. So, and anyone that doesn't know what that show is, I'm sorry. This last year has made me nostalgic for old things. Okay, almost done here. Sorry for this being cringy of me watching me type here. Okay, so all I did was fill out what would be standard here. Anything that's going to be changing is just going to be whoever's going to be signing it. So I'm going to hit save and close. Oh, and I forgot one thing. I'm going to go right back in there. Forgot to do one thing. You want to change the name of it real quick here. So go up here and then I always like to put my initials, buying. Save and close. And so now if I were to go back into my room, and I needed to add that IABS now. Docusign forms. TAR. There's the buying one. And I get the little drop down, and now I can just pick it from right there. Add selected. Now when I pull it up, it's all filled out. And you can see it merged the fields. So whatever's in the details went on the bottom there because the IABS does have a place for the property. And then it has all the information from my template in there. And now it's ready for sending for signing. So I would actually recommend that you guys practice by doing your IABS for buying and listing. Do those two as your first two templates. And then try your next ones like your buyer representation, your listing representation. And if you want to get into your 1 to 4, because you have a very standard 1 to 4 that you use, then you can have that in there too. So, but go ahead and practice those. And then that way you'll have your templates ready to go. Anytime you pull those documents, it fills out as quick as possible, saves you time in Docusign. And now no one can complain. It takes too long to fill out a Docusign form because you already have them already filled out. Any questions on that? Okay, so we have got to our last subject for the day. And we have 15 minutes, but I'm going to probably get this done a little quick. It's not, that doesn't take that long, but in-person signing. This has been a request for people to be able to, you're at a listing presentation and you want to just give your computer over to seller 1 and seller 2 to sign the listing agreement. We know that's our point for having an appointment, is to have that a listing agreement signed, but it's hard if you do not have that listing agreement right there on your computer that they can sign. So I'm going to go back into my room here. And I actually have a listing agreement that I filled out last night right here. So I already filled it out. Already ready to go here. So now all I need to do is put this into an envelope. You actually are going to put it into an envelope, just like if you were going to be sending it out electronically, but you're going to stop yourself from sending it right before then. So I'm going to hit create envelope. Up here for the envelope name, I'm going to put in-person signing listing agreement. And you could have done all your other disclosures if you wanted to. This isn't limited to just the one, any ones that you wanted to be signed in person, like your disclosures too. You can't have them in this. I'm going to go ahead and add the recipients. Pre-tag roles. Remember, you always want to use those pre-tag roles. So seller one. And again, this is just to confuse everybody. I'm going to be seller one. Lori is going to be seller two. And I am going to be the listing agent, just to confuse everybody. There we go. Add selected. And just keep everyone 111. Do not have to worry about this too much, but you may just want to change the subject to in-person signing. And listing agreement. Okay. Continue working. Do not reboot my computer, Bear. And now, instead of hitting next, I am going to hit save and close. So, important step. Do not hit next. You're going to hit save and close right here. Now it drops into a draft envelope right here. What I need to do next is an important step. So watch this carefully right here. I'm going to go up to my picture up here. And I'm going to switch to e-signature. It's a little thing right here. It says e-signature right here. It's going to change my screen, and some of you have never seen the screen before. Do not worry. The only purpose you would have to come to the screen is for an in-person signing right here. I am now going to go up here to manage. And I am going to go to drafts. And right there is my in-person listing agreement for signing. I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. Actually, yeah, continue. It's going to bring me back into the envelope now that I created. What I need to do now is go to right here where it says needs to sign and change that to in-person signer. It's going to ask who is going to be the host. You as the agent are going to be the host. It already kind of hints at who is going to be that person. I'm just going to go ahead and select it. I'm going to go down to in-person signer. Again, going to ask who is the host. And the last one, in-person signer, who is the host. I've selected all that. So just to remember those steps, I switched to e-signature signing. I hit manage at the very top, and then I click drafts to find my draft envelope. I then opened up the draft envelope, and now I needed to switch the recipients to in-person signer and select the host name right there. Once I do that, I'm ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. I can then do all the switching that I need to do in here or any edits that I needed to do. I can do those right then, but I'm going to go ahead and hit send. Don't worry about this. It says this is for you to sign if you wanted to sign right now. I'm just going to hit the X right now here. It brings you back into your sent box right here. And now this is ready to go for you to sign. You're going to see a little bar here. It's going to say sign. And this is now, I'm in front of my client. So I would have done all of that before I got to my listing agreement. Now I'm sitting in front of my clients that or potential clients that I want to sign a listing agreement. So now I'm going to go ahead and hit sign. I'm gonna pick who is the first person to in-person sign. So I'm gonna do seller 1 first. Hit save. It gives me instructions here. You are now going to pass over your computer to the person that's going to sign. And you're going to say, start. And now, so Eddie Grass has passed the controls to Ed Grass, the seller 1. Continue. So now their laptop is in front of them and they are going to sign just like they received the email. And don't you wish, again, they have to adopt their signature, but don't you wish all your sellers would sign just like this? Yes, you're the best agent ever. I'm going to trust you. I'm not going to read this contract. There we go, finish. And if they want a copy, they can put their email in and they'll receive a copy of that. They don't have to. Now it's done for seller 1. Now it's going to go back into your sent. It still has a sign here because there's still people to sign this here. So I'm going to go ahead and hit sign. Now, Lori, save. Again, it's going to give you instructions. You're going to pass control to Lori. Now Lori has the laptop and I'm signing on her behalf. Continue, start. She has to adopt her signature. And sign. And then again, she could put her email to receive a copy. And then the last one is for me as the agent to sign. So me as the agent, it's going to still give me the instructions that I'm going to pass this to me. I'm going to hit start, continue. I agree again. Continue. Start. I have to adopt my signature. And again, if I wanted a copy, but I'm going to have a copy because it's my box. And now you're going to see it's going to say that I can download, but the easiest way is to, from now point, is go up back to your picture, switch back to rooms, find your room. Here it is right here. Documents. And there is the signed one right there. So I just completed in-person signing. It takes a little bit of prep work before you get to your listing agreement, where you're going to prep the form, you're going to go into your e-signature, you're going to get it ready. And then when you're there is when you're going to be doing the passing the controls back and forth. It's another way, if that's what's comfortable for you. I always say, if you're ever doing e-person, just have them to your laptop, have them sign into their email, and they can find the email that way too, or they can do it on their phone. So, but I wanted to teach you this tool too, so that you can do it in-person signing. Any questions on that? Yes.
If one's like traveling and one's at home, you can set it up like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
You
can get a husband or wife to sign for you, but then send it to the other person.
Yes, you can always do it that way too. It doesn't have to be all in person, because when you get to that point where it said in person, you could have left it as just sent and then hit send. It would have sent them the email that way too. That's the point where you had to make those decisions.
So you would have just left that second person as needs to sign?
Yes.
Okay.
And For myself personally, I would have just left myself as needs to sign. I wouldn't have to set signed in person too. Any other questions, guys? I know that was 4 different topics in Docusign. I wanted to bring you an advanced class in Docusign against the seller's disclosure, the lease application. Remember, the trick to those is using predefined roles. Predefined roles opens those up. And it's always the number 1 person, whether it's seller 1 gets to sign the seller's disclosure, tenant 1 gets to fill out the application. But you're only using the predefined roles. The form templates, it does take some time for you to pull those and create those form templates, but it's going to make your life easier that once you pull those documents, all you do is pick the template and it will fill it in for you. And if you already have in the details, your client's information, it gets merged together and has just saved you a lot of time. And the last thing about the in-person signing, it's just if you want to do it. Most of us will probably do some of it sometimes, maybe never, but still you have the option to do in-person signing. It was a request by agents to have in-person signing. So this was the results of their request. So if no other questions, I am right at 11. I did good. I gave us 1 minute spare. So we'll see you guys in another class probably next month. We'll try figure out if anyone has ideas on classes you would like me to teach, please let me know. Send me emails and I will be glad to teach those classes for you if you have those that you would like me to teach. So I will see you guys.
Thank you very much.
Okay, in the